Hey everyone, it is 𝗃𝗲𝗳𝗲𝗃 and I am back with a new video. And it's been a while, my subscribers. I've noticed that I've definitely been on a up and down cycle with the channel lately, and that's reflected in both my subscribers and my videos, and it's just been a really rough time for not only this channel, but me personally. You see, in terms of where I've been, a lot has happened lately. Between just college and a lot of personal stuff, to put it simply. So rather than ramble on about it for like a good 2 or so minutes, I'm just going to put a link in the description that will lead to a full post talking about my issues that have been happening recently and where I've been and what's the future of this channel. Obviously, I do plan to continue it, but right now a lot has just been on my plate and it's just hard to think about much else, you know, my usual stuff. However, recently something has happened that has brought me out of retirement and has brought some energy back into me to talk about video games. And that is the reveal of the final character in the first Fighter's Pass for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Now, for those who live under a rock, the Fighter's Pass is basically a DLC pack that's for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate that gives you 5 individual fighters along with stages, music, and all that other stuff. And the first pass has finally wrapped up. After the set of characters that we've gotten up until this point, we got the last character for the pass, and there was a lot of speculation on who it could be. Who could wrap up this first chapter in Smash Ultimate's DLC journey? And a lot of people had, you know, a lot of big expectations for who the character could be. Could it be Dante, considering that there were some interesting Devil May Cry events happening around the time of this announcement? Could it be maybe Aero from 𝗵𝗿𝗄𝗄, because there was some small evidence for her? Could it be a long requested character like Waluigi, Gino, Shantae, etc, etc? You get where I'm going with this. Basically, who it ended up being caused quite big backlash to Nintendo, and that is Byleth from Fire Emblem Three Houses. Yes, you did not hear me wrong. Byleth from Fire Emblem Three Houses. Another Fire Emblem character. Now, obviously, having the final character of this first Fighter's Pass, having the end of this first chapter of Smash Ultimate's post-game journey be another Fire Emblem character, considering the huge controversy with Fire Emblem characters already, is definitely something that's a big deal. Like, I see a lot of people confused and angered at people who are getting mad over Byleth being this final character of the Fighter's Pass. They're saying, oh, well, you're ungrateful. Sakurai worked so hard on this game. He's been losing sleep and he put all his energy into this. You should accept this without question, or let people enjoy things. You don't have a right to complain and mass disliking people's videos who question this, and all sorts of ugly stuff from the Smash community that you would expect. And of course, there's people on the opposite side who are also going extreme. They're like harassing Sakurai and saying that he should be fired just because he didn't choose a better character for the end of this pass. And I think both sides are definitely overreacting. However, before I go back on that thing where I talk about why the side who's thinking that Byleth is horrible is in the wrong a bit, first, I do want to explain something. In terms of my personal opinion with Byleth and Fire Emblem characters, it is definitely frustrating, and I'm more so leaning on the side that Byleth as this final character of the first Fighter's Pass is definitely a dumb pick. And what I'm going to do now is explain why Byleth's inclusion is frustrating compared to someone else who could have gotten in this spot. So the reason why I think that Byleth is a underwhelming inclusion is the fact that Byleth being this final character, being the final character of this Fighter's Pass, compared to all the other reveals, is just so dry and flavorless. Yes, Byleth, in terms of his/her moveset, is unique. It does have some interesting things going on there. It actually uses some of the other weapons in the Fire Emblem weapons triangle, and for that makes Byleth a very unique character in comparison to characters like Lucina or Roy and etc, etc. And there are other unique Fire Emblem characters too, so to say that they're all the same and they're all super tiresome for that reason is definitely a little bit of a stretch. But let me talk about why Byleth is such a dry and flavorless inclusion. So despite having the weapons triangle, despite Byleth actually, being a somewhat unique character, at the end of the day, Byleth is still a blue-haired swordsman. Byleth still fits into that stereotype of the typical Fire Emblem character, and considering how many of the Fire Emblem characters are in fact blue-haired anime-looking swordsmen, it's just so tiresome. And people are saying, well, you can't use the stupid anime swordsman logic. Byleth uses other weapons. Yeah, but Byleth's default weapon is a sword. So it's still kind of hard to really distinguish Byleth from that stereotype when she falls into it. Heck, Byleth's reveal actually kind of made fun of the swordsman stereotype, saying, oh, are there too many swordsmen there? We'll take these other weapons. And even though that would be kind of funny if Byleth wasn't a swordsman, it's just you can't make that joke when Byleth fits so closely to the stereotype. Byleth's default weapon is a sword, and she has blue hair, and she fits into the problems with the other Fire Emblem characters and why people feel so overwhelmed with them. You can't make that joke when Byleth, his/herself, just fits into that category. And then on top of, those things I said that make Byleth not that exciting, it's also the fact that what Byleth represents. With the other characters, they represented something more than just themselves. They represented something on a bigger scale in terms of the other fighters in the Fighters Pass. With Joker was a huge surprise because not only did Joker not really get leaked before his reveal, but he was just so surprising because Persona is something that's not heavily associated with Nintendo. It's not something you would expect to see with Nintendo. It's this franchise that's just so different from other franchises represented in Smash, so Joker was just that amazing. And on top of that, Joker came with this really cool looking stage and this really slapping music. Joker just felt aesthetically like a different character. Then you have Hero. Now the Dragon Quest Hero is definitely a little more on thin ice because the Dragon Quest Hero was also kind of getting backlash for fitting into that anime swordsman category. But what made the Hero feel a lot more different is the fact that it came from another franchise. It had spells and elements from those games. It had music from those games. They actually had multiple different characters from those games. It just felt like it represented something more than just a new inclusion of an already represented franchise. And then we have Banjo. Now, when Byleth happened, I saw a lot of people coming up with counter arguments saying, well, look at Banjo. Banjo was nowhere near as exciting as Byleth, which I don't know what people are smoking, but just look at the reactions to Banjo-Kazooie compared to literally any Byleth reaction. Banjo-Kazooie is indisputably one of the most hyped inclusions in the Fighters Pass, and that's because of what Banjo-Kazooie represents on a so much grander scale. Rare used to mean so much to Nintendo. Rare was a big part of the N64 era. So to say that Banjo's inclusion doesn't mean anything and that Banjo is a meaningless character is just extremely stupid to me. And finally, we come down to Terry. Now, personally, I wasn't feeling much with Terry. I kind of got a Ryu and Ken vibe with him. I know the hat Ken meme is kind of stupid, but Terry does represent something more than himself as well. He represents his series, which actually went on to inspire Sakurai to make Smash. Terry's series is a big part of the fighting game community, and the reason why that Terry's inclusion feels, a little more special is that Terry does have some unique elements. He does feel a little more bigger than himself, and it's definitely due to the fact that he's a third-party character we'd never expect in Smash. With Byleth feels like a character that we would expect to be in the past had we not gotten Joker as the first reveal. Byleth is such a safe Nintendo choice. It just feels like a character we would expect. Oh, another Fire Emblem character to promote the latest Fire Emblem game. Who could have saw that coming? Like, Sakurai did say, like, yeah, you'll figure out who it is pretty quickly from the trailer, but like, it was like 2 seconds in. The only other trailer that's that more obvious on who the newcomer is was Palutena's trailer, and that's only because he was like in the first frame. But this trailer just felt so generic and just kind of lame for a new character. Compare that to the trailer for Hero or Banjo, or and especially Joker. Those had a very surprising vibe to them. They just felt so much more exciting and fresh. And just Byleth, though, just feels like a run-of-the-mill Fire Emblem character that they threw in because they had to promote the latest Fire Emblem character. And it just feels so underwhelming. And of course, you can also make this comparison with Corrin. Now, in terms of that reveal, what makes Byleth a little better than Corrin is that Byleth's game was actually out. Byleth's game, Fire Emblem Three Houses, actually came out and had some pretty good reception, as opposed to Fire Emblem Fates, which wasn't even out in the West yet, and they only put Corrin in the game to help boost the sales of Fates. So yeah, in that sense, Byleth does have a little more justification than Corrin, but here's the problem with Byleth. Sakurai said that he had chosen these fighters before the pass was even, starting. So he chose these fighters long before he was finished up with the pass, which means that he literally went and chose Byleth before Fire Emblem Three Houses came out. He chose Byleth despite the fact that Fire Emblem Three Houses barely had any time to exist as a game. So in a way, Byleth is almost no better than Corrin. And considering how controversial and how lame Corrin feels despite having a unique moveset, that's what makes this all the more frustrating. And the fact that Sakurai had a slot reserved for any new Fire Emblem character, like, oh, whatever the new game is, that's where the next Fire Emblem character is going to go. Like, the fact that he had a slot just reserved for a Fire Emblem character just feels distasteful. And the reason why a lot of people are so frustrated with that is there are so many other franchises that just don't have proper representation in Smash. Like, some series haven't even gotten their second rep yet, and you're giving another character to Fire Emblem just because they have a new game coming out? Like, the biggest comparison is look at Zelda and Kirby. Zelda and Kirby are some of the biggest Nintendo franchises. They used to mean so much more to Nintendo than Fire Emblem, but they haven't gotten a new rep in so long. Like, Kirby especially hasn't gotten a new rep since Brawl. He just has Meta Knight and Deity, and he's had so many characters join his roster over the span of the games that have happened between Brawl to now. But yet, despite all those new Kirby games, Kirby can't get one new character, but yet the minute Fire Emblem releases a new game, oh, we gotta put that main protagonist in the game so we can promote the next Fire Emblem game. Like, Fire Emblem is a series at this point that has enough brand recognition to stand on its own 2 feet. You don't have to add a new protagonist into the game just to promote the next game. Like, it makes sense if this was a whole new Smash game and we'd had cut some of those Fire Emblem characters and, cut some of the fluff, but just stacking them onto each other just because of the fact that Fire Emblem is getting a new game is just so stupid. Now, there is a common counter argument to this, and it's the fact that there are a few other series that are also overrepresented. For example, you have Mario and Pokemon. They have a lot of representatives too, but yet people don't complain about them. Why don't people get mad that people are asking for more Mario characters like Waluigi or Geno? Why aren't people mad at all the new Pokemon that they're adding, including ones like Incineroar that people also got upset with? Here's the difference, I feel like. The difference between Fire Emblem and the other two overrepresented series in Smash is that they have a lot more of a varied feeling to them. With Mario, the characters that he typically adds into Smash are very iconic characters. They're not just characters they pull out of nowhere because there's a new game coming out. No, they're characters that have established themselves between multiple games. For example, Mario, Luigi, Donkey Kong, Yoshi, Peach, Daisy, all of them, they have spanned throughout almost hundreds of Nintendo games. They are huge contributions to Nintendo and their lineup. So they kind of have to be there because they just mean so much to the identity of Nintendo. You can't cut a character like Donkey Kong or Yoshi because why? Like, they're like the head honchos of Nintendo. So it makes sense that Mario would get so many reps in comparison to other series. These characters have a long-lasting impact. And yeah, you could argue characters like Rosalina or Bowser Jr. were only added because of their increasing popularity. But again, they have a history between multiple games. That's what I feel gives them that staying power that they deserve. In terms of Pokemon, while Pokemon doesn't have that argument, because you could argue that Pokemon also kind of switches its cast up a lot of these Pokemon are still around. Like Pokemon like Pichu, Pokemon like Mewtwo, they still mean a lot to the Pokemon brand. And considering that Pokemon is one of the biggest media brands out there, yeah, it makes sense that Pokemon also has a lot of reps too. But with Fire Emblem, they're adding these characters just because of the fact that they're getting a new game, just to promote this next game and not much else beyond that. Especially because of the fact that a lot of these are avatar characters, no one feels excited for them. These characters don't have any history, they don't have any longevity staying power. Like Fire Emblem doesn't keep the same cast between its games, it usually switches it up a lot of the time. There are some characters that span between multiple games like Roy and Ike, but characters like Byleth, characters like Corrin, they're one-time protagonists and they're just getting added into Smash Brothers to promote the game that they're featured in. And that's what I feel makes it so frustrating when these characters get added, because why are Nintendo adding these characters that will be gone and irrelevant the next day when they could add a character that has some history behind them? And of course, you could argue, well, Geno, look at Geno. He's only been in one Mario game, but Geno represents so much more than just himself. Yeah, he's only been in one Mario game, but there's a reason people are asking for him to be in Smash. It's to bring the character back. Character hasn't been seen in so many years. He just hasn't been represented in any Mario games, and he used to be one of the coolest seen Mario characters in the franchise before he went absent. People want him in Smash because it may be the only chance to get him. Smash is the only series where Nintendo really goes out of their way to negotiate with these third-party companies, and that's the reason people want Geno in Smash so much. They not only want to see him fight alongside these Nintendo All-Stars, but they just want to see the character again. And of course, with characters like Waluigi, again, Waluigi is a character who has been asked for almost a decade. And there's a reason why he's been asked for over a decade. It's because he's been in so many games throughout decades. Like, just, do you see where I'm going with this? Basically, Fire Emblem is a series that I think is justifiably called overrepresented, because it feels like there are too many Fire Emblem characters that just have this samey feel. Fire Emblem is a series that doesn't have as much variety in what it can do between its characters. It is a medieval times kind of series, so of course a lot of the characters are gonna have swords, and yeah, you could give them other weapons in the triangle, and you could like give them special powers like with Corrin, but at the end of the day, these characters can only be so varied compared to series like Mario, like Pokemon, etc, etc. Now, let me argue for the people who, you know, are kinda in the right in this. Like, there are people who are saying like we shouldn't complain all so much, and in a way, there is kind of a reason why we shouldn't be so upset over Byleth's inclusion. To be fair, we do have 6 more characters, not 5 more characters, not like another Fighters Pass with just 5 characters. No, we have 6 more characters coming. So that definitely cushions the blow. And I didn't even buy this first pass myself. Like, I was actually given to it from a friend. So really, I have no reason to be entitled and act like I don't deserve Byleth, because at the end of the day, I'm the one who bought the pass, so I get what I paid for, I guess. However, despite that, I do think it's still baffling that Nintendo made Byleth the character to end off the first Fighters Pass, knowing full and well how people would react. Yeah, you could call it like a troll thing. Sakurai did it to troll and mess with the community, but at some point, you just gotta stop and say, nah, maybe we shouldn't let the internet freaking burn. Like, maybe this was a calculated move. Maybe Nintendo wanted people to explode over this announcement and wanted more traction to Smash Brothers that way, but just negative press is never the way, is always the way I see it. But at the end of the day, despite what Sakurai or Nintendo, like honestly, I don't know who really to put this decision on, despite their decision, at the end of the day, we are getting 6 more characters. There's not necessarily a promise that there won't be a Fire Emblem character again, but I think it's safe to say Nintendo is not going to dare put another Fire Emblem character. So we are going to get 6 more characters that could totally be from new or long misrepresented franchises. So at the end of the day, it's not worth getting so upset over just because your favorite character didn't get in. And I think that's where some of the people are right in that defense. But at the same time, the fanboys who go on a rampage, if you don't eat up whatever Sakurai puts into the game, like, they're in the wrong as well, because you don't have to accept anything the Smash team does. You don't have to accept whatever character they throw in. You have a right to be disappointed. But either way, man, the Smash community just needs to get it together. Like, Smash is such a great franchise. It's not worth getting so mad over. Like, yeah, Ultimate is not the perfect Smash game for sure. It has its problems, but at the end of the day, I think it's safe to say that Smash Ultimate is a good enough game that it's not worth all this drama. Alright guys, that's pretty much all I have to say regarding all this Byleth controversy and drama. I guess if you liked the video, please leave a like. Like, I know there are a lot of people going around disliking, bombing any videos that don't immediately accept Byleth and don't immediately accept whatever Nintendo and the Smash team does, and please don't do that. Like, it's just not worth that negative energy to spread. Let people have their opinions, whether it be for the character or against the character or just whatever. I encourage healthy discussion between the Smash community, between Nintendo fans, and that's what I'll always argue for. And of course, I will be back with new videos. I'm not going to give a concrete date as to when I'll make my grand return with a new big video or something like that, but just know I am thinking about the channel 24/7, and I will be back with a new video in due time. Alright guys, this has been Nux, and I'm out. Peace.